I've just done a few slides about the industry, which was my plan B, because I knew you were busy this morning with some uncertainties of the timing. So, you know, I couldn't have planned it. I came to the last slide just as you came in, but I was going to have to do a little song and dance or something. But I was talking about airline business models and the importance of new aircraft and so on, many of which, of course, are key to what you're doing with Qatar Airways. So we're going to talk about those in a few moments. So welcome. You've just come, I think, from the airport, and if I'm not mistaken, you just opened a new lounge today, new first class lounge. How did that go, and how's it looking?
We always have something new to add to our business.
Absolutely.
And already within a week since the terminal started to function with our lounge, we already have received an award as the best airport lounge in Dubai. So it's good.
Excellent, good stuff. Well, we sat here last year, and I think then you were saying that you'd had a reasonable previous year, but you know there were some worries then about various things such as fuel prices. How has the last year been? I think you're going to make some comment on that in the next few weeks.
Yes, we will announce our results sometime during June, as we have to wait for our audit to finish, and it will be the best year we ever had. I cannot give you the figures, which of course I know.
Absolutely.
But I will wait until we will officially announce to the press sometime during June.
And on that point of your figures, Akbar, I was mentioning to the audience how yourselves and the other Gulf carriers have firmly rebutted about the US allegations. I want to ask you something about that. But do you think at some point, as the airline develops, you will look to publish on a structural annual basis, say in the way that Emirates does? Is that your intention at some point?
Yes, that is exactly our intention. As a matter of fact, even if you don't do it to the public, they have already obtained our accounts from several regulatory bodies to which we declare our accounts. And it is very clear that the allegations made against us is unfounded, and it is just a proxy war on behalf of their European partners. We have stated very clearly in our application to the US government that two things we haven't done, which is already provided in the air services agreement between my country and the US. The first is that we have not violated any clauses of the open sky agreement between them and us. And secondly, we have not done any harm to the US carriers, which again is provided if we do a proper legal channel to address those allegations, not in the press, but in official channels. And both of this they couldn't prove. So I don't know what is the issue. If it is issue of there is no traffic between the United States and my country, or there is not enough traffic to justify so many flights a day between our three Gulf carriers, because there is not so much point-to-point traffic between the Gulf countries from where we three operate. But this is also the case with the joint venture partners of the American carriers. They do not have that much point-to-point traffic. I have given statistics in our filing and with my representations to the US government that when you add all the fifth and sixth freedom traffic of the three Gulf carriers together is actually less than the fifth and sixth freedom carriers like Lufthansa, British Airways, Air France-KLM carry out of United States. So what is the problem? Where is the problem? And this they cannot prove. They're just trying to protect their joint venture partners by claiming that we are harming them. But the joint venture business between them and the European carriers is only point to point. It's not beyond. So really their whole argument and allegations are, in my opinion, unfounded.
Now, last year when we met here, you were just about to go to Washington at that point, when this allegation was just in its beginnings. How were you received in that visit to Washington? Have you been again since the...
I was received very positively by the authorities because they were very open at our rebuttal to all these allegations. And I think we are at the end of that road. We are just awaiting the final decision from the authorities in the United States. And I'm sure the authorities in the United States will realize that what we are doing in America is in the best public interest, and not, of course, in the interest of the US carriers, because they want to keep the cake and eat it themselves.
Yeah.
This is business. It is for everybody.
Absolutely.
They cannot compete with us. They cannot compete with us on quality. They cannot compete with us on pricing. They cannot compete with us with the hospitality we provide on the airplanes. So of course, they don't like competition.
Absolutely. And is that decision in the hands of a neutral administration, or is it political? Will it get caught up in the elections?
No, I don't think the United States was the inventor of open sky. United States is a country that promotes competition, promotes business, and I think at the end of the day, the administration will realize that what we do in the United States is in the best interest of the public. Just last week, I received nearly 12 mayors from major cities in the United States where we don't operate, convincing us to start operating to their cities. So it is a very clear indication that the people want us, but the three Americans who are actually announcing record profits, the highest profits an airline has done in the history of aviation, are just, making nonsense of this whole industry.
And a really odd hypothetical question. If we ended up with a Donald Trump administration, he's talking about putting wars up against Mexico, tariff barriers against China. Do you think he understands this issue?
Look, I was asked the same question by one of the global news channels just a couple of hours ago. Donald Trump is a businessman. Whatever he is saying today, and you know that the politicians, they say everything to get elected, and then immediately in the first 100 days, they will not deliver what all they said. And the 101st day, there is an absolute 180 degrees about turn. So I think that all this is just to get elected. Donald Trump, I have mentioned that he is my friend. Donald Trump is a very successful businessman, and I know that Donald Trump will always promote competition and business, regardless if it is in the interest of certain entities or not. He will look at the general interest of the American public. Once he gets elected, I am ready to lay a bet with anybody in the audience that all these policies that he's saying that he will introduce will not happen. Cool and stable minds at the end will prevail. But that is if he will be elected.
That's right. Well, we've got a few months to wait and see what happens.
Let's see.
In terms of the route development, I mean, just to say one more thing on the US, you're opening again a lot of new routes this year. You'll go up to, you're going to go to 10, or you're at 10 and about to go to a couple higher, with Atlanta coming on stream, LA and Boston have just begun.
Yes, we will expand to a few more cities in the United States, but we already know what those cities will be. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you today.
What you said, and I found this quite a interesting quote. You've announced Atlanta and said that it would rub salt in the winds of Delta, and then this consortium, the Partnership for Open and Fair Skies, said, well, Mr. Al-Bakr has made it clear that the subsidies the airline receives are allowed to fly routes for the sake of petty peevishness. But I remember the first time I met you, you said, well, we don't fly planes for fresh air, we fly for business reasons. Delta's come off Atlanta Dubai, but your report, your rebuttal, showed your US load factors, do I remember rightly, they're high 80s.
I wonder if my audience have already seen some statements coming out from the new CEO of Delta, where Qatar Airways will soon withdraw from the market because there is only 5 or 6 passengers that will travel on that route to the Gulf. Well, I think, frankly, he must be smelling glue, because we are already in the high 60s load factor, and we have still not operated. And once the people see the product we have to offer, I think we will have a huge following. People who want to travel on quality airline are looked after well by young cabin crew, perfect service, good hospitality, interaction, and they don't have to ask passengers to load their trolley bags in the head racks.
Maybe you could do a commercial along the lines that one with Emirates did with Jennifer Aniston.
No, I think the way we are doing, the way we run our business is really the right way. And any new route from day one is not going to be followed. You know, it is a new route is a business under development, and it will take us a good part of a year, 2 years to really get recognized. And we are there for long term. We are not there, you know, to chicken out because we carried only 60% load factor. We look at network contribution. We are a network carrier, and we are creating a large hub. As you know that Hamad International is already the second largest hub in the Middle East, and this is where we are going to go.
I mean, mentioning Hamad International, it's amazing, but it's 2 years now, isn't it, since it opened?
Yes, it is exactly 2 years.
Is it performing well, delivering what you hoped from it?
For both years, we have already been receiving award as the best airport in the Middle East. As the CEO of the airport, also I'm not happy at that, because we want to beat Incheon, who keeps on getting #1 award. I'm sure that once we have done with our expansion plans, we will be by far the best airport ever built.
Strategic developments as well. When I was giving my slides earlier, I was talking about the different approaches of the three Gulf carriers. I mentioned about you joining One World and then becoming a stakeholder in IAG. Are both those two elements have as much importance today as they were when you began? IAG maybe in particular?
Well, let me tell you that IAG is the most successful airline group today. Their performance is absolutely over the moon. They have already announced record profits, and the first quarter is very good. So I always mention that we always will associate ourselves with rising stars, and therefore we bought a stake in IAG. We are by far the largest single shareholder in IAG. As of today, we are just under 12%. We were only a few months ago 9.99% shareholding. The One World Alliance has done good for us, but it would have done better for both us and our alliance partners if it was not for this nonsense that Delta started, and unfortunately one of our alliance partners has jumped into the bandwagon.
But as you said, IAG more broadly is a positive thing, and
it's a very positive thing, and we have already started to gain from our shareholding. We have already received 2 dividends.
That's right, because they are the only legacy group who's paying a dividend.
Yes, we have already received 2 dividends, and we will be receiving our 3rd dividend soon.
We're looking forward to that. And Willie is still performing well. Willie Walsh.
Well, I quite frankly feel that Willie is one of the best CEOs that IAG got, and if not, definitely he is the best CEO in the industry today.
That's quite incredible. I was talking to Paul Byrne from Fly NAS earlier this morning, who worked with Willie in the days when he turned around Aer Lingus, and it's quite ironic 7 years later to buy Aer Lingus into a new airline group, which is now...
Normally pilots, they don't make a very good CEO, so he is really a very unique
I think the only other one I can think of who did a good job was Gordon Bethune in Continental. But as you said, generally pilots should stick to...
Well, it was before my time in the industry, so I don't know the guy.
That was a long way back, but it kind of went somewhat off the rails after that. And in terms of other investments, I mean, I noticed you used the term rising star in terms of investment. In the past, you've talked about investing in goldsmiths rather than scrap merchants. Now, we've seen other airlines investing in various companies. I talked about some of that earlier just now. You've been talking quite a bit in the last few days about Meridiana, which is quite a niche, what you said, niche Italian operator, very different to Alitalia. What is your interest there in terms of what will it bring to you,
Well,
if you do it?
you know, this airline has huge potential, which we see, because we wouldn't have been talking to them if we didn't feel that way. Their only problem is that they have not been managed properly up to now, and they have been bleeding. They have a very good potential to grow, and with the partnership of Qatar Airways, this will be a very successful airline, I am sure, provided the unions with whom we are now negotiating play ball with us. I have made it very clear in my press conference the first day of the ATM, and I will repeat it now, that if we do not get the working conditions we expect from the employees, we are not going to take the stake. We are there to make the airline successful and to grow the airline and provide more jobs. But we are not there to just bankroll employees. We want employees to deliver, and we want employees to be committed to the airline, and we want employees to look at the interest of the airline and not only the interest of the unions. I know the unions need to benefit from their employees, but at the same time, the principal focus of the employee should be, one, how they can make the entity they work in successful, and secondly, how they can make more money by working harder.
Yeah. I guess Italy in particular, I mentioned earlier about Alitalia and all its history, is that you've got to take that tough approach from the outset to be clear, because it's a country known for its
we don't want to
instability.
we don't want to take a stake, invest, and then find out that we are struggling to get an agreement with the unions.
Yeah.
We want it very clear from day one, and we will not accept a temporary solution. We want an open-ended solution, that from today, 10 years, we have no issues, and we are ready to look after the employees, provided they deliver, provided they work to the standards Qatar Airways expect from any employee to deliver to the business, because we will grow the airline.
Sure.
It will not be anymore a niche carrier.
Okay.
It will be a global brand, a carrier that Italy will be very proud of.
I was going to ask you that, because at the moment it is a point-to-point airline that has to stand on its own 2 feet, so you will look for it to do the two things. One, to become a bigger airline with that pride and profit indeed, and working with you to extend Qatar's access to traffic that they can bring.
No. We are now a very large stakeholder in IAG. We never used IAG to get access anywhere.
Right.
And we are going to do the same with Meridiana. Meridiana will be an independent Italian carrier controlled by the Italian management, with Qatar Airways equity and Qatar Airways technical help, and Qatar Airways supplying them new aircraft that they require to grow. And it will be an Italian carrier with its hub in Italy, serving the Italian people.
That's very clear. And you also mentioned, possibly been interested, but maybe not right now because it's enough to digest one thing if this happens, Royal Air Maroc as a very interesting African carrier, because they have a particular niche in African hub, but a challenge short haul, a lot of low-cost carriers that have gone into the Moroccan market.
Well, I don't think that the low-cost carriers being around full-service airlines should be frightened of. Why we are so keen in Royal Air Maroc? One, because it is a very well-known, old, established brand in Africa. Secondly, its potential is underutilized. Casablanca could be a major hub between Africa, Europe, and the West, United States, North and South America. But that hub is not being properly developed because lack of investment and the lack of focus to the standards of customer service. And we as Qatar Airways, becoming a shareholder in Royal Air Morocco, would develop that aircraft, that airline, to be a very strong brand, serving Africa to the world.
Yeah. Because I mean, so as you say, that point in Africa, that position geographically, is ideal for what we're doing with this hub.
Exactly.
They haven't really got the muscle or perhaps the focus to do it on their own right now.
Exactly.
So we should watch out on the medium term. And just quickly, one other on the investment side, Indigo, you've again made clear you'd like to, not been able to yet, but it's still in your sights. You still see the positive benefit.
For us, unfortunately, as of today, it is history. They have already IPO'd. They were oversubscribed because, keeping in mind, Indigo is the best run airline in India, and this is why we were interested. I did not realize that, again, an airline cannot invest in an IPO of another airline in India. It can only be an investment body. It could have been our sovereign fund, for example, taking a stake in Indigo. The information came to us too late, and the decision making in Qatar Airways is fast. But if our investment authority or our sovereign fund had to take, they have a longer approval process. Right. So there was too short a time for us to get everything in place in order to take the stake. But yes, if we had again another opportunity and we had enough indication of time, that we will again make a bid for Indigo.
Okay. Now fleet, again, I gave the comments a bit before you arrived about Qatar being unique in having all the new aircraft types that are available today, or what you would call the new generation, in the fleet on the long haul. Amazingly, the 787 has been in service worldwide now 4 years. It's quite incredible. The time has passed. You have that. The A350 is about a year with you now, I think, and of course the 380. First of all, are you happy with the operational technical performance of those three types? Are they delivering what they need to in the fleet?
I had made it very clear that we were having a lot of problems with the 787. The 787 is now nearly mature, so we have less issues with them. Their on-time performance has been very good. Okay. The dispatch reliability is now very good. Yes, we have some issues with the A350. Which was expected, and I said it many times because it's a new program. However, I feel that Airbus is losing steam in resolving those teething problems.
On the 350?
On the 350. And we are, as a customer, very demanding and putting a lot of pressure on Airbus to sort out these issues. The biggest problem in the industry today, with both aircraft manufacturers, or actually with all the three major aircraft manufacturers, including Embraer, is that they are getting supplied by the same supply chain. Okay. Right. There are very limited people that make avionics, they make the APUs, and now both Airbus and Boeing are going to single source engine providers, which really, in my opinion, is not a very good idea. Right. And there is not so much investment by those supply chain to invest to produce more of the equipment when all the three are buying from the same people. Yes. And this is now becoming a very big issue, where the component reliability is not as it should be because there is so limited people doing the same thing.
Right. Very interesting point. I mean, the average person on the street wouldn't have a clue about that. They wouldn't realise that behind the image of Boeing or Airbus, that was a fundamental challenge. Do you think...
And all their production is, eaten up in building these large numbers of new aeroplanes. Yeah. So the spares holding becomes very, very small. And this, of course, when you don't have good reliability of the stuff and you have very limited spares available, this also then becomes that both manufacturers have to cannibalize from the production line.
Which gives its own problems and causes access to it. I mean, you've talked about the 320 Neo and the issues there, and I mean, Lufthansa, I think, is only airline.
No, actually, it's Lufthansa and Indigo
So
that
Indigo's
have
not so.
received the news.
And Lufthansa is severely limiting how they're using them on some domestic
Well, not
services.
only that, I'm sure you know that the Lufthansa has suspended taking any
Suspended
further
further
deliveries.
deliveries, that's right. Yeah.
So I was right not to take.
Do you think that manufacturers are not realistic with the amount of new aircraft we've had coming in? I can remember, I'm sure you can, the 320 itself was new in the 1980s, and I worked for an airline called British Caledonia. We were supposed to get these aircraft, but luckily we were bought by British Airways by the time the planes were delivered, because they were so unreliable at the beginning. It was a new glass cockpit. The engineers used to call it the ground bus, not the Airbus, because it spent more time on the ground. But do you think manufacturers, when they make step changes in technology, are those optimistic?
I don't think that I would call Airbus as a ground bus, because
It's 30 years ago.
the aircraft, even the Neo,
Yeah.
the aircraft flies.
Yeah.
But how much it can fly?
Reliability.
What is the reliability? How robust is this new aeroplane? Though it is really a new aeroplane.
Yeah.
Okay, it may have the same cockpit, it will have the same fuselage, but a lot of components are new or strengthened. So they have to go back and see what are the issues and ask very, very serious question that major airline like Qatar Airways and Lufthansa are now not taking those deliveries.
Yeah.
There is a problem, and this needs to be resolved.
Absolutely. In terms of orders, I mean, the order book is big, outstanding for Qatar anyway, and we had a quieter Dubai air show last year. The Farnborough is coming up this year. That's normally one that excites the juices in the industry. Do you think we should expect to see more activity from yourselves at that show?
I will leave this matter without any comments till we come closer to the Farnborough.
Okay, watch the space for a couple of months down the line. And just maybe to wrap up, as time is limited, the industry is facing really big global challenges, not what it doesn't usually, but security is becoming a big risk. Markets that have been touched or even damaged completely, especially tourism markets. Do you think the industry is taking the right approach in dealing with essentially the unknown? We don't know what's going to happen where or when.
Look, there are, John, frankly speaking, there are major strides taken in providing adequate security and, of course, investment in equipment to mitigate this risk. However, I think we still have a lot of work to do because, as everybody knows in this room, that there is so much inconvenience to people at airports due to the excessive security process that is in airports. There are major investments now being done by suppliers of security equipment, where, in my opinion, in the next 5 years, there will be more sensor-based than physical security processes that people. So there will be more seamless travel experience than currently people face.
It is the last area of frustration.
But let me tell you something. Whatever you will invest, whatever you will do, at the end of the day, you cannot have absolute 100%. When somebody is determined to circumvent the security systems, they find ways. They will try, but out of 10, there is a possibility that one will go through. Because terrorists, unfortunately, are also becoming very sophisticated. They put airports under surveillance. They pass through airports. They use frequently the same channels in order to see which is the weakest point, which then they exploit. And our job as airport operator is to make sure that we do things that it becomes very difficult for their surveillance to succeed.
Akbar, I'm conscious you've got other activities and this room is going to be used again. I do want to ask you one little question which I think you'll like. One of your favourite topics, IATA, which you've become more actively involved in yourself in management in recent years. Tony Tyler decided not to do a second term and is now going to be Alexander de Jubiac who's coming in. He's an Air France guy and a Frenchman, making a clear link between the two. Not the most natural enthusiast of liberalisation or the Gulf carriers. What is your view about him taking the helm for this role, which is a global one?
Well, I was one of the individuals that interviewed him
Right.
for this job, being a member of the
Board.
not the board, but a member of the chair committee.
Right. Okay.
And before we put it to the board.
Okay.
And I made it very clear to him what he has to explain to me. What is his opinion as the CEO of Air France? He was instrumental in creating this whole rebuttal against us. He was actually the one that created this accusation and enticed his minister together with Lufthansa and the Minister of Transport of Germany to demand that EU renegotiate air services agreements jointly with mostly Gulf carriers who were not performing on level playing field and were being subsidized by the government. So I wanted him to explain to me how now he is going to change this attitude and not represent just an alliance in IATA, but to represent all the world's airlines as a neutral body, promoting competition, promoting expansion of airlines, supporting airlines like Gulf carriers. What would be his stand on this? I would like to know if I have to accept him as the right candidate for IATA. He gave me several responses, which gives me the comfort that he was doing that for the sake of his career, which was of course misguided, but he was doing it, and that now he will have to protect the interest of all the airlines, which really, in my opinion, I was not very happy with my friend Tony because he was sitting on the fence. As the leader of an international airline community, a leader should always stand up and be counted and protect the interest of everybody, including the interest of Delta, American, United, Etihad, Emirates, Qatar Airways, because he's our ambassador. He is representing us in this world body, and he should not shy away of demanding that this nonsense should be stopped, and the Gulf Airlines or any other airlines in the world have the right to expand and have the right to receive equity from their owners, and the owners are our governments. We do not get equity every day. Our equity to them is subsidy. But the European carriers forget that for nearly 7 decades, they were receiving subsidies from their government, funds from their government to operate. And post-privatization, they also received billions in restructuring assistance. And most recently, during the 9/11. And post 9/11, some European countries injected money into their sick airlines. As for the Americans, for years they have been losing money and getting legal protection, which to my understanding is subsidy. Chapter 11 is a legal subsidy. And the Europeans should know that during Chapter 11, they were receiving and embracing these bankrupt airlines as their alliance partners. So why, when it comes to Qatar Airways, Emirates, and Etihad, it becomes a subsidy? We don't receive subsidies. We go to the financial markets to take funding for our airplanes. We expand. Yes, the government gave us a very large chunk of equity, which they are completely within their right to do so, because they are the owner of this business. And an airline, for a small country like mine, is a very important economic driver. So I don't see what is the problem. And why they are only targeting Gulf carriers. Delta became an equity shareholder of an airline that is absolutely subsidized. Why airlines in India, which is part of Star, the Star Alliance people are not complaining that they are subsidized? Why Ethiopian, which is a state-owned airline receiving funds from the government, is not subsidized? Because they are Star Alliance partner. Egypt Air, receiving funds from their government to operate, to expand, because it is Qatar Airways, it's okay. South African Airways, which is an airline that keeps on receiving funds from the government, is part of Star, but that's okay. Thai International is government-owned airline, receiving funds from the government, part of Star, that's okay. But when it comes to us, it's not okay. Why? Why did they? Because their partners, their alliance partners can get subsidy, but we cannot. Which actually is legitimately equity in the airline.
Well, it's certainly going to be interesting to see how this pans out. And now we're going to have a Frenchman at the helm of IATA. Also thinking of France being quite limited in its air service agreements compared to Europe as a whole.
But I want to tell you something, John, that me sitting on IATA, Board of Governors and IATA Chair Committee, I don't represent Qatar Airways. I represent the international airline community. And I will assure you about one thing. As long as I am there, I will watch over any CEO of IATA. I'll watch over his shoulder like a hawk. Because for me, he has to serve the airline community. And it is my duty to the airline community who have elected me on the Board of Governors to absolutely look at their interest to the maximum. And this I will do.
Akbar, I think it's a very good note to close on. I could happily talk on, of course, but thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And look forward to speaking to you again at future ATM. So, ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency Akbar Group Chief Executive of Qatar Airways. Thank you very much.